The long-awaited balance patch is finally here, and oh boy is it a big one. There's a lot to discuss in this patch, including a rework to the Soul Urn, as well as so many balance changes to various items and characters to discuss. So, as always, a link to the patch notes will be in the description down below if you want to follow along, and let's get started. To kick things off, we've got the general changes, and there's a lot to discuss here. Everyone is getting a little bit squishier this patch. The base HP and HP per boon for all heroes has been reduced slightly by 10 and 3 respectively. And they've also done some retooling to the resistances on Guardians and other objectives. So Guardians will actually take a little bit more damage in the early game now. Their starting resistance is 75% instead of 50%, and it declines down to minus 50% over the same time period. So yeah, if you're winning your lane and you're snowballing early, you have more of a chance to get that Guardian down before 5 minutes, which is going to be pretty interesting. Furthermore, base Guardians and Shrines have had their bullet resistance doubled from 10% up to 20%, and the tier 2 bullet resistance has increased from 25 up to 35%. But now let's talk about something that's going to make every experienced Deadlock veteran groan and grumble just a little bit, because Yoshi's messing with our timings. So medium camps, like this tier 2 camp right here, will now spawn in at 5 minutes instead of 6 minutes, right at the same time as the bridge buffs, which, honestly, that's a fair enough change, shouldn't be too hard to remember. But the thing that's really going to trip us up is the fact that boxes now spawn at 3 minutes instead of 2 minutes. Oh, everyone's instincts at, like, Phantom Plus just got shattered this update. If you're one of those players like me who, oh, you're looking at the timer? Oh, we're at 2 minutes? Okay, great. Let's go pick up some boxes, take the tier 1 camp. Yeah, no, now you just have the tier 1 camp and boxes. You're going to have to wait a minute longer for that. I wonder what we're going to do on the lane now. I feel like it's almost going to be a little bit boring, but we'll see. Certainly, though, that muscle memory is gone. Oh, and all those Wallbreaker Victor players will be displeased to hear that you can no longer damage shrines at all unless you've taken out a pair of base bosses first. You have to crack open into the base in order to finally start whacking these things. And the backdoor removal linger duration was reduced from 20 seconds to 14 seconds, so the backdoor protection should be coming back a little bit sooner. Alright, here's something fun for all of us CC haters. Debuff resistance now reduces the duration of knockups. So just as a practical example, the Infernus on the left here has no items, and the Infernus on the right has both debuff reducer and weighted shots. And I've got the tier 2 ground strike, which knocks enemies up. If I go ahead and use this, you'll notice that the one on the right is significantly less impacted than the one on the left. Let me do that again. That is actually quite noticeable. So yeah, really love to see that. That is always nice, because crowd control is a menace. Alright, now let me head on over to the yellow lane for this next example, and oh. Oh, yeah, they got rid of 2 jump pads this update. I always really dislike it when they do these. I find jump pads to be super fun to play around, and they've put in a lot of protections in place to balance these now, with the stun and the heavy knockdown and all that, so I am a little surprised by this, to be honest. But yeah, the jump pad over here has been removed, and then on the other side of the map, the one that is in the similar place to that one that takes you over to Green Lane, is also gone. On top of this building right here, you see the vent going over there, but not going over here now. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, at least, you know, as far as jump pads go, it's not like the most important jump pad in the game, but still, it was fun. I like it. I don't know. I like jump pads. Sliding now also no longer resets your sprint speed. So if you go ahead and, like, slide down a slope here, you get back to sprinting just as fast as you normally did. As you can see with Wraith here, I'm not really slowing down when I do a slide like that. I can even slide on the ground and get right back to it, so yeah, that's nice. Now here's a change that sucks for anyone who likes mobility, such as myself. Wall jumps are back to not being free, but not in the way that they previously were. Instead, if you wall jump, then your stamina will be regenerating 25% slower for 5 whole seconds. But this only actually takes effect if you are in combat. So if you're just meandering around the map as I am right now, then you can wall jump to your heart's content and your stamina won't regenerate any slower. But if you're fighting somebody, then you're going to have to manage your stamina and wall jumps a little bit more carefully. But there is an exception. If you mantle soon after doing your wall jump, just like this, then it will not apply this penalty. So you're not penalized for just using a basic wall jump to get onto a higher platform. Alright, let's talk about medic troopers. These have been substantially nerfed this update, I would say. So if I pick up this heal, you'll notice that it's taking slightly longer than it did before to actually give me all of the healing. That's because they increase the time it takes, from 2 seconds up to 4 seconds. You still get the same overall healing, but it takes longer to kick in. And the important thing is, if you pick up multiple orbs at the same time, they will not stack on top of each other for the same duration. Instead, the duration will be extended. So, I will go from 4 seconds up to 8 seconds of duration on the heal. Let me show you what that looks like. Actually, apparently the other troopers are not coming out. Okay, I cannot show you what that looks like. You'll have to take my word for it. So if you pick up like 2 or 3 of these orbs, you're going to be waiting potentially like 12 seconds to get all of the healing from it, which is fine if you're picking up solo lanes and you're not in danger. But if you're trying to clutch up under a Guardian, this is actually going to be a very big deal. It gives the enemies much more of a chance to kill you, and conversely, if the enemies pick up a heal, it'll give you more of a chance to kill them as well. So that is a pretty big nerf to the medic trooper overall. Alright, let's talk about something interesting they've done with diminishing returns on 2 stats in particular. Bullet velocity is now additive instead of diminishing. What this means is, you can pick up multiple sources of increased bullet velocity, and they will not sort of cancel each other out. You see, for other stats in the game, like damage reduction for example, you will actually get diminishing returns on the stat that you get. If I pick up bullet resilience here, I have 30% bullet resist, as you can see. If I stack Battle Vest on top of that, instead of getting 48%, I only get 43%, as you can see here on the label. That's diminishing returns, and it no longer applies to bullet velocity. So, I can go ahead and get high velocity rounds, upgrade that into opening rounds, and then I can also get... Ooh, how about the new sharpshooter that increases my bullet velocity by 60%? And now, I have a 120% bullet velocity increase, turning Kelvin into a hit scan, effectively. So that's pretty neat. But conversely, in a tragedy for Mirage players everywhere, Inhibitor and other sources of damage reduction applied to the enemies like Fire Scarabs now have diminishing returns against each other, so stacking these two won't be as effective as it used to be. And while we're in the shop, let's talk about investment categories. These have been retooled a little bit for all of the categories, just to give you a little bit of a smoother climb up into the higher ranks of the investment category. So after 4.8k, they have added in an extra tier here to basically smooth the curve and give you a more gradual increase in power, which I think is pretty nice. You can read the specific numbers in the patch notes. I don't want to dive into that too much. You get the general gist. Now, before we get to the spicy Soul Urn change, let's discuss a few more things, mostly just bug fixes and stuff. And also one more point of increased functionality on the Walker is that if it starts doing the meteor attack, because there are multiple people around, can we have it, please? Please, please, sir! Please do the meteor attack! Why is the Walker not doing the meteor attack? Apparently I don't know actually how to trigger this. Okay, anyways. If you have the Walker spawn a meteor attack, it will now actually cancel the meteor attack and charge up a slam if given the opportunity, so the Walkers are a little bit more responsive to the player's movements and attacks. They also fixed some jittering on the zip lines, which is very appreciated, but I think something you'll find more interesting is that now ropes are considered for the same keybind as zip lines for the purposes of your binds, because if you didn't know, you can actually go into your keybinds here, and somewhere down here, you'll be able to find, yep, there it is, the keybind for getting on a zipline and rope. Most people just have it bound to the same thing as jump. That's the standard, and it feels fine, but if you want to have finer control over your movement, you can rebind this, and if you do choose to change the bind, that now applies to the rope too, which is very good. But here's where we get to the big bug fixes. So, they're big in the sense that they are numerous. A whole host of abilities have been fixed, taking you out of zoom temporarily when cast. So, that's going to feel real nice. I'm not going to read all these. You can see them on the screen right now. And also, a lot of abilities and items were not working properly through Veils, and they have adjusted many of those as well, including things like Healing Right, Rescue Beam, the Cube, stuff like that. So, a whole bunch of abilities should feel better to use when dealing with these tricky little Veils. But now, it's time to talk about the Urn. This thing has been reworked completely. Yoshi is testing a new system for the Spirit Urn, and, well, we'll just see if it's any good. We've got to do a lot of testing, so make sure to give your feedback in the comment section and also on the forums where Yoshi actually, reads what we have to say. But, yeah, the first thing you'll notice is that now, to pick up the Spirit Urn, I have to melee it just like that. I don't have to stand over it anymore. And now I get to carry the urn to an altar, and the altar is in the center of the map, as you can see over there. So if we just bring this on top of the blue lane bridge, I will now begin the depositing phase. So let's drop this off. And now we have to wait for the Soul Urn to secure. You can see the timer on the top middle of the screen. And once it's done, we finally get the souls, and the rewards are the exact same as they were previously. Souls for everyone, buffs for the person who contested it last. But here's where things get interesting. First of all, you can actually use abilities now during the urn. You still can't shoot, but I can throw a fire scarab if I want to. As long as it's not a movement ability, you're good. And also, if we go ahead and pop the urn in here, and then I have this Infernus, punch it, it switches teams, and it also, look at that, it ticks over significantly faster. So that's how you're going to contest the urn now. It's going to be a melee battle over this thing. Your parry key is going to have to be bound. You're going to have to try and stop the enemies from hitting this. You're going to have to counter hit it, and it's meant to be more of an interactive objective that, causes everyone to get in a big team fight. More than was already the case, because now it's in the middle of the map instead of on one of the side lanes. Should be a lot easier to contest for both teams. But also, there's no comeback urn location anymore, so that is just straight up gone. Instead, if it's a comeback urn, then the favored team gets some very sweet benefits. So, if the urn is favored, then the favored team will get 50% bullet and spirit resist in a 60-meter radius around the urn while it is being carried, dropped, or deposited. That's a lot, and that's for everybody surrounding it, meaning that the team that's behind has a much easier time fighting the team that's ahead for the purposes of contesting this here. Also, if the urn is favored for your team, then the actual depositing phase will be much faster than if it's neutral or unfavored. If it's unfavored, it's actually a 10-second deposit time, giving the opposing team plenty of time to come and try and whack it. And with great power comes great responsibility. If you are holding the urn and your team is all around you, all benefiting from those damage reduction perks, well, everyone's also going to be revealed on the minimap, so the enemies will know just how many people are coming to escort the urn, which, is a lot more powerful than it was before when it was just revealing the person carrying it. So let's turn in this comeback urn. The candles were green. My team is behind because my Infernuses suck compared to this Chad Infernus on the enemy team. And pay attention to how the souls are claimed. So we put it in, 3-second time, and then boom. And you'll notice that you also can't deny the urn anymore in regards to the orbs that come out. Whichever team gets the urn in gets 100% of the souls every single time, which is quite potent. There are a couple more details you can read about that are much smaller, but this is still a very big rework to a map objective, and we'll see how people like it over the coming weeks. I imagine this is going to be in testing for at least 2 weeks to see if it's superior than the previous urn iteration. I have to say, I'm looking forward to giving it a fair try. But now, let's talk about the item balance. There is so much to go over here. Starting with the brand new Vitality item, Grit, which is a barrier item that upgrades into every single barrier item in the game. Holy crap. So this is an 800 soul item, and it gives you 1 out of combat regen, as well as an active component where every 60 seconds you can activate this item to get a barrier for a short duration. It's 200 barrier, which is actually just a little bit under the rest of these barriers here, and almost the same as Guardian Ward, but it is only for yourself. You cannot apply Grit to an ally, you just activate it, and it gives you some extra health in a pinch. It only lasts for 4 seconds though, so you gotta use this while you're going in or while you're escaping to clutch an enemy. It's not really going to take the place of something like Healing Right, which gives you more permanent healing over a slower period of time. This is really meant for a more active playstyle in the early lane, and then you can upgrade it to whichever barrier you want later. But now let's get into these weapon item balance changes. But before we do, real quick, if you guys have been enjoying the video so far, I would really appreciate it if you would subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on future update videos from me. And also, I'm not going to be covering every single weapon change here because there's so many. And a lot of them are rather small changes. Still impactful, don't get me wrong, but like, do I really need to tell you that you get 5 extra healing from NPCs on Restorative Shot? Sure, it's a buff, but like, yeah, I really just want to cover the absolute most important stuff here. Otherwise, this video is going to be like 2 hours long. Starting with Weakening Headshot, which now works against NPCs. You can finally use Weakening Headshot to farm if you want. Look at that, it's applying damage vulnerability to these creeps. It'll also, of course, work on Guardians and the Lane Troopers as well. You'll just be able to kill all of it faster. Tesla Bullets got an actually pretty strong buff that might fly under the radar if you're not paying attention. The cooldown has gone down from 0.25 to 0.2 seconds, meaning you can proc this 5 times in 1 second instead of 4. That is, effectively, if you have enough fire rate, going to be around, what, a 20% damage increase coming from the Tesla Bullets here? That's pretty powerful. So check this out. Let's buy Mystic Expansion here for my Puddle Punch, and then let's go ahead and upgrade to Ballistic Enchantment. This makes a lot of sense. This is very reasonable. I do like this a lot. And also, the range on Ballistic Enchantment has been improved from 20% up to 22%. Shadow Weave, which freshly got reworked in the last balance update, has been buffed. So the ambush fire rate has gone from 20 to 25%, the spirit power has gone from 20 to 25, and the melee damage has gone from 20 up to 25% as well. And furthermore, the duration has been increased from 10 to 13 seconds, and that is for the invisibility, so you have longer to actually go and ambush somebody, which, yeah, looks pretty nice. Shadow Weave is really going to be on the menu for certain characters in the future here. So as we saw a little bit earlier, Sharpshooter now upgrades from high velocity rounds and long range. So I can buy this, I can buy this, and then Sharpshooter just costs 800 souls to upgrade to. What on earth? That's pretty silly. And it inherits the benefits from high velocity rounds. So you get that 60% bullet velocity, and you get 10% base weapon damage, and to compensate for that, the bonus damage that you get at long range has gone from 70% down to 60%. But yeah, that's pretty cool. Sharpshooter has always been kind of a very niche item, and this will make it a little bit more accessible, and the extra bullet velocity actually means that you'll be able to take advantage of your longer fall-off range too. It's actually a suggestion that I made back when I was making my own balance patch in collaboration with Gluten Snakes, so yeah, that's pretty cool to see. Cult to Sacrifice has been buffed again. The weapon damage scaling has gone up from 8 to 10%, the boon scaling has gone from 0.7 up to 0.8, and the bonus souls has gone from 170 up to 180, making it even more lucrative to go in here and chomp on one of those tier 3s. I couldn't see how much money I got from that because the two numbers covered each other up, but it was a lot. Let's just put it that way. In a sick twist of fate for Infernus players everywhere, Toxic Bullets no longer builds up from your melee attacks. Which, I mean, on paper that makes total sense. It's literally applied on your bullets. But, considering Infernus now builds up Afterburn on his melee attacks, now he can't do that with Toxic Bullets, so it's, oh, well, that's a little unlucky, but ultimately this is a very sensible change. Crushing Fist, and by extension Melee Charge, just got a really powerful buff. The cooldown on the bonus damage has been reduced from 7 to 5 seconds. That's actually a lot more uptime. Melee builds are really going to like this now. And furthermore, you get a little bit more melee damage from 20 up to 22% on Crushing Fists. Now they just don't really know what they want to do with Spiritual Overflow, but this has certainly got a funky change this update. The Spirit Lifesteal is now a base part of the ability at just 13%. It's innate, you don't have to build it up. Now by building it up, you just get 32% fire rate and 40 spirit power. But Spiritual Overflow is also a little bit more accessible for some builds because it upgrades from Spirit Lifesteal. I can buy this, get all those nice benefits, and then come on over here, and Spiritual Overflow is only 4,800 souls now, and then I get it nice and easy just like that. I really like when items upgrade into each other. It makes the item shop feel much more accessible, so I do think this is a cool change. Now, how this will affect Spiritual Overflow remains to be seen. And finally, Glass Cannon got a little bit easier to use because the max health reduction has been reduced from -15% to -13%. Less of a penalty on this means that more people are going to use it. Alright, so now let's talk about the Vitality items, and once again, there's a billion of these, so we're only going to be touching the absolute highlights. If you want to read more, they're on the screen now, and they'll be in the description as well. Starting with Restorative Locket getting a nerf, it no longer grants one base stamina restore. Now you have to have some stacks in the bank in order to get some stamina back. And the max stamina restore has gone from 4 down to 3. So yeah, just a big nerf to the mobility that you get from this item, which makes sense because it's still a very popular item on heroes like Celeste, who love to just bounce around like there's no tomorrow. Now here's something fascinating about weapon shielding and spirit shielding that's going to make them significantly more competitive with Battle Vest and Enchanter's Emblem. Instead of giving you a little bit of movement speed, these items now give you temporary bullet and spirit resist respectively whenever the barrier pops. This benefit lasts for the entire 8 seconds of barrier duration, which is very nice. Those are some good stats to get early. And I almost wonder if now we'll see people combo these items, since you can upgrade from Grit into Spirit Shielding and then get Enchanter's Emblem, and when this item activates, you're going to have a lot of Spirit Resist for not much effort. Now, it does cost the same amount as Spirit Resilience, but it's much more accessible because you're just building it from smaller items. So, I don't know, could be an upgrade path we see, not so sure about that, but regardless, these barrier items are way stronger now, so that's pretty cool. Oh, and I knew I wasn't going crazy. I could have sworn Guardian Ward gave you 200 barrier before. It did. The barrier got buffed to 250, but the cooldown also got nerfed from 45 seconds up to 60 seconds. That is pretty big. Dispel Magic's cooldown got nerfed by 5 seconds. 40 up to 45. I remember when debuff remover used to be a thing, and it had a lower cooldown, and it gave you inherent debuff resist, and it built from debuff reducer. I wish we had that back, man. This item is a shell of what it used to be, and yet it's still mandatory for so many builds. Yo, check this out. Majestic Leap now gives, 50% increased air control, not just for the duration of the leap, but for the duration of the barrier. So even after you land for a little bit there, you're still able to zip around in the sky. Let me show you that again. Majestic Leap, and whoa, we are moving. Now, just out of sheer curiosity, let's get this on Celeste. Oh goodness, I could just like completely halt myself there and like turn in a jiffy. Wow, that is fascinating. So, pretty cool change for Majestic Leap. And also the barrier got a little bit better too. The boon scaling increased from 8 to 12. A little bit more health out of that. And Indomitable is getting some small buffs. So did a lot of other items, but I feel like it's worth mentioning just because this item is new. So, not only does it inherit the base effects of the components regarding the out of combat regen, you get the +1 from Reactive Barrier and Grit here, but you also get 2% extra bullet and spirit resist, bringing the total up to 10%. And the barrier scaling has also been improved. So Reactive Barrier still has 1.8 scaling, but Indomitable is back up to 2x spirit scaling, which is nice. It feels like that should be the case if you're shelling out the big bucks for a tier 4 item. But now let's talk about spirit items. Once again, the list of changes is on the screen. Thankfully, it is a little bit smaller, but I'll still only be going over the absolute highlights, the most need-to-know information. Starting with a pretty big buff to the Golden Goose Egg, it gives you permanent buffs now for every 80 souls instead of 100. So, yeah, that's actually gonna be really big the longer you hold the egg for. Also, Cold Front is kind of just turning into a sphere at this point. So they keep buffing the vertical range. They've done this multiple patches in a row now, and now I can hit this guy comfortably underneath me. But they also reduced the horizontal range. So, like, I can hit him from all the way up there, but it won't go out as far. I almost wonder if they should update the visual effect to make that more clear. I mean, it does almost look spherical right now, because they've increased the vertical range so much. I don't know, it's kind of weird. But yeah, Cold Front definitely functionally very different than it was a few patches ago. Spirit Snatch got a pretty sizable buff. The Spirit Power Steal has gone from 20 up to, well, it says 28 on the patch notes, it says 25 here in game, but regardless, it's higher now. And so is the Spirit Damage scaling from 0.744 to 0.84. It seems like melee builds so far this patch are winning. Guys, the funniest item in the game just got an equally funny buff. Magic Carpet. Hello! This now gives you passively, inherently, minus 15% gravity scale and plus 25% air control. If I again stack this on Celeste, is this not just flight? This is kind of just flight, is it not? What the heck? But if we get this on a normal character here, you can still see the difference. We fall just a little bit slower, and we're able to turn and kind of bunny hop. Wait, am I seriously bunny hopping on Viscous right now? I kind of am. Oh my goodness. I mean, I'm hitting the ground a little bit slower because of that anti-gravity. I'm accidentally double jumping, but oh my goodness, you can like, if you're good at the game, you might be able to bunny hop on certain characters this now. That's just so crazy. And of course, the Magic Carpet is still the Magic Carpet, so nothing about that has really changed, but these new passive benefits, they feel very in line with the item, and also, wow, that's actually kind of crazy. And just for kicks and giggles, I know you want to see it. I know you want to see it. Magic Carpet with the Majestic Leap, and I mean, yeah, you can just do full circles in the air. And on Celeste, oh my goodness, we gotta bring out all the stops here. Let's get this, let's get Magic Carpet, and, I mean, yeah. At this point, you have so much air control that the only limit is how fast you want to move your mouse to control your movements. There functionally just is no limit if you stack all of this. Will it be meta? Absolutely not. Will it be fun? Absolutely. Back to cold-related items, we've got Arctic Blast with a very powerful change here. Arctic Blast will now freeze stamina regen for the full 4 seconds of slow that it inherits from Cold Front. So if I just go ahead and make this guy my puppet, give him an Arctic Blast, clear follow, let me burn all my stamina real quick, and then have this guy use it, my stamina is frozen in time. Now they still need to update the UI to make it clear that your stamina is frozen, because it looked like I had a stamina bar there ready to use, but I didn't. They need to make it red, or something like that, to indicate you can't use it. Otherwise though, yeah, holy crap, Arctic Blast, coming in with a very powerful buff here. And also, unlike Cold Front, the radius has been increased on Arctic Blast, from 12 up to 16 meters, and the damage height has also been increased by 2 meters. However, it no longer provides a 15% damage amp. Not that many people were using that anyways. And also the base immobilize has been increased by 1/4 of a second. Just a flat 1 second immobilize there, as you can see. Yeah, this item is going to be really strong, especially on characters who already picked this up, like Calico. But now it's time to talk about hero balance. Oh boy, feels like I've already been doing this video for ages, and yet we're only just now getting to this part. We've still got half the patch notes to go, guys. So, let's go through these changes. Abrams is getting some readjustments to Infernal Resilience, starting with the Tier 1 being the max health bonus now, instead of just increasing your passive regen by a little bit. So you get 200 max health right out the gate. I wonder if that would actually be really strong on lane. It might be. I don't know. Seems interesting. But the Tier 2 of this is even more interesting. It gives you 18% melee lifesteal, and that is for all of your melee hits, ladies and gentlemen. Boom, bam, bop, and pow. All of that was healing me. So it's basically just a slightly less potent life strike, but a life strike that applies to every single hit. No cooldown whatsoever. That's really cool. that is really cool and very synergistic. I like it. Also, Seismic Impact is being buffed here. So the Tier 2 has been increased from 0.7 to 0.8 seconds of stun duration, and the Unstoppable duration on the Tier 3 has been buffed by a full second. 6 seconds on this now. So yeah, Abrams feeling pretty good this patch. Apollo is getting some nerfs. Today is a good day. First of all, his hitbox has been improved. He's just straight up easier to hit now, so hey, that's always nice to see. The base regen has also been reduced from 2 to 1, so he should be a little easier to kill on lane. Riposte also no longer automatically dashes. It now grants you a sub-ability immediately to target the hero you want to jump to for a brief duration. And you can target the enemy before the parry to buffer it, so if I put it on this guy here, you can see there's that little indicator now to specifically jump to the target. So let me just spawn a Bebop here, make him my mimic, and then... yeah, I dash directly to him, but you'll notice I don't actually dash anywhere else. I have to dash specifically to the enemies, otherwise it's not going to work. But there is a little bit of delay after that, as you can see. It's kind of janky, trying to showcase it here in the shooting range by myself, but you get the idea. You can't use it as a get-out-of-jail-free card to just send yourself flying up to the high ground anymore. You have to go for the stun, otherwise you're not moving with the riposte. So that is a change that's going to really nip Apollo's mobility in the bud. Riposte also no longer triggers on damage auras like Flame Dash, no longer triggers off of objective damage, and then Flawless Advance is harder to hit. Apollo himself is easier to hit. Flawless Advance, you gotta be a little more precise with this now. It's not going to be the same free damage as it was before. Oh hey, speaking of Bebop, this guy got some weapon nerfs. The bullet damage per boon has been slightly reduced, and Exploding Uppercuts Tier 2 weapon damage has been reduced by about 10%. But the Sticky Bomb Tier 2 upgrade, the one that gives you a little bit of extra damage on your bums, has gone from 75 damage to 85 damage. So just a flat, clean shift towards Spirit being a little stronger and Gun being a little weaker. Alright, now Billy here is getting a little bit of a power shift. So his health is going up from 48 to 59 per boon. So at max level, he is actually going to be significantly tankier than he was before, which is good. He's a frontline hero. However, his bullet damage per boon has been slightly reduced, and Rising Ram's cooldown has been increased to 32 seconds, up from 30. But if you upgrade the Rising Ram, you get plus 0.1 seconds of charge duration on the Tier 2 now, and the Tier 3 gives you that cooldown reduction back and some, because the cooldown buff has gone from 10 seconds to 13 seconds. So if you upgrade this all the way, you actually have a 1 second faster cooldown than before. So the upgrade they gave Calico a couple of months ago, where she does more damage to barriers with the Tier 2 Gloom Bombs, was interesting, but ultimately just not good enough to warrant upgrading to it. Now it gives you minus 5% melee resist per bomb for 5 seconds. So if I heavy melee this guy normally, it does 122 damage. I hit the Gloom Bombs, and now I do 145 damage. So that's pretty neat. The only worry that I have with this is that it's not synergistic with Leaping Slash, because most of the time you use the Slash before using the bombs. The Slash acts as a tool to get up close, so that way the bombs don't miss because they have crazy spread. And so you're not hitting the Slash after you have this benefit. Yeah, that doesn't seem quite right to me. But at the very least, it's a better damage upgrade than she had before. Celeste is getting some movement nerfs and some damage buffs. So just like Apollo, her hitbox has been improved. She should be easier to hit in the air. And also her stamina cooldown has increased from 4.5 to 5 seconds. So she regenerates stamina slower now. That is actually going to hurt a lot more than you might expect. But also, the Radiant Daggers and Shining Wonder Tier 2 have both been buffed. Radiant Daggers now has 4 extra seconds of cooldown reduction on the Tier 2, as well as plus 10 damage, and the Shining Wonder has 20 extra damage on the Tier 2, from 50 up to 70. So, more damage through and through, but at the cost of her being an easier character to catch. Oh, Doorman, what have you gotten yourself into? So, the bells have received some changes, and the first one here, let me show it to you. If I go ahead and hit Infernus with the bell here, you'll notice that my accuracy is in the toilet here for the full 4 seconds of the slow now. It no longer diminishes over 1 second, it now lasts 4 times the duration. More than that, actually. That's a little absurd. But, to compensate, the call bell has also been nerfed in some aspects. So the base radius has been reduced by half a meter, but he does get that back on the tier 3, and also the spirit scaling on the damage has been reduced from 1.4 to 1.3. And the call bell and accuracy debuff has been reduced from minus 100% accuracy to minus 40% accuracy. As you can see, it's still made Infernus not really be able to hit the broadside of a barn. This is a very powerful supportive tool, especially against gun builds now. But now let's talk about the doorways. So doorways close sub-ability now starts on cooldown for 8 seconds. So, if I put those up there, I cannot close the door for 8 seconds after putting both of the doors down. This is a massive nerf to Doorman, especially to the kidnapping playstyle. Because previously, Doorman would put down a door, send someone flying through it just like that, and then close the door immediately behind them, and they would not have an ability to escape. Now that is no longer the case. You must leave the door open for 8 seconds, meaning that now we might still see some Doorman players being tricksy by putting the door down, leaving that there, waiting with their vortex web patiently to cart someone through, and then finally closing it once the cooldown is back. But regardless, that immediate kidnap playstyle is a lot less effective because the enemies will be able to retreat right back through the same door. And furthermore, if Doorman tries to use the doors to get away, that too is harder because the enemies will be able to chase him through without him being able to snap his fingers and shut the door behind him. You know, it makes me happy to see a lot of the changes that I thought about months ago in my Gluten Snake collab come into the game in some way, shape, or form. So Rend is getting a rework to the tier 3. It no longer increases the scaling by 0.4, but it does make Rend deal heavy melee damage, but it does reduce the scaling from 1.2 down to 0.55. So this should still do more damage. Let me hit Infernus here. That did about 63 melee damage. We activated on him now. It does 66. So 3 extra damage. But the important thing is, it's now considered as heavy melee damage for the purpose of activating items such as Spirit Snatch, Crushing Fists, and Life Strike. The cooldown on all of these is going to be much lower than they were before for the Rend. But the interesting thing is, this might not actually matter that much, because the cooldown of Rend is 9 seconds, but the cooldown of these items, even with their light melee penalties, is less than 9 seconds, so you might not see this benefit Drifter too much unless he's a weird Crushing Fists user. And also, yeah, because the reduced scaling is gone, this might end up actually being a nerf for the character. Dynamo is getting some slight nerfs here. He's getting less bullet resist shred on the tier 2 kinetic pulse, down 3%, and also the kinetic pulse spirit scaling has been reduced from 1.65 to 1.55. Quantum Entanglement got the most interesting change. Instead of cleansing debuffs with the tier 3, it now reduces non-ult debuffs by 50%. But I honestly don't think this is going to matter that much, because oftentimes the very duration of the Quantum Entanglement will allow most of these buffs to expire in part or in whole. So it's still effectively going to be a cleanse for most intents and purposes. Alright, let's take a look at these Graves changes. Graves has been in the gutter at any rank that's not, well, Initiate, for a while now. They did a lot of nerfs to the character, and Graves has so much counterplay baked into her kit that, well, Eternus players make her look like a joke. So, they saw that, and they decided it's time to give her some improvements. Most notably, the Deadheads look like they're going to feel so much better this patch. So, yeah, let's just cut directly to the chase with the Deadheads. They have done so much quality of life here regarding their targeting. They updated the dash ranges for Deadheads to be calculated from the center of Graves when they are following her, so they should be more responsive when they're just following her around. Let me just throw some Deadheads here. They should be following me. Are they going to actually start attacking Bebop here? Oh, they're still not going to, but they should still just work a little bit cleaner. They also fixed fire rate buffs for Deadheads not being applied to their next attack, but only on subsequent attacks. So fire rate is more responsive too. Deadheads should also now be able to dash through veils. Let me try that. So if I do this and then Yep, they can dash clean through the veil just like that. They also fixed deadheads being unable to dash to targets at the very end of your attack range when they are in follow mode, so that's more responsive too. And they fixed deadheads damage from bullets being unaffected by fall-off, so if enemies try to shoot the deadheads from really far away, they're going to do 1 or 2 damage, and it'll take a lot more bullets to take them out. All of that is going to feel really, really nice. And we're not even done! They added a 0.1 second buffer duration for deadheads, losing line of sight before they stop following an enemy. So, they will be a little bit better at chasing enemies even when line of sight is briefly interrupted. And they fixed deadheads becoming inactive if Graves dies while they are following her. So if I throw these down and then I kill myself, they're still going to kill Bebop, as you can see, which is another great quality of life change. All of this means that the deadheads are going to be utterly vicious when they come after you now. This is very nice. The targeting on these deadheads has been awful ever since her release. She was just strong enough for so long that people didn't really care or tend to notice too much. But with Graves in her weak state, yeah, the bad targeting became very, very apparent. So this is amazing to see. So, now let's talk about what they did to the rest of the character. First up, her sprint speed has been increased by 1.6 to 2.2. So, a little bit faster when you're rotating in the jungle, very cool. Grasping Hands now also spawns a ghoul in the base ability. Look at this, no upgrades? And there is a ghoul. That is a very big buff and is going to play into the Necromancer playstyle, of course. Especially because the tier 3, well, it just adds a ghoul. So the 2 ghouls is back. That's spooky. Ray's zombie build, where you Echo Shard the Grasping Hands, is back on the menu now. Those zombies are going to be relentless. And now, going down to the bottom of these changes here, they fixed certain projectiles not colliding with deadheads. They updated Graves' melee to also set the dash target for deadheads. So if I throw these deadheads over here and then melee, they will now target Infernus, which is very nice. And, oh, well, a small nerf. Her bullet damage and growth has been reduced by minus 10%. So, a little bit less gun damage, but I think that's okay because these quality of life changes are going to mean so much for the Jar of Dead. And of course, the Grasping Hands got a very powerful buff this update. So, yeah, nice to see that they're actually addressing some of Graves' core problems regarding, these minions just being a little too janky to control sometimes. Grey Talon's Rain of Arrows is getting a soft rework here, so let's look at what they've done. First up, the cooldown has been reduced from 30 seconds to 22 seconds, and the cast delay is also substantially reduced. You get up in the air much faster, but it only lasts for 4 seconds, and then you come falling out of the sky again. But his movement in the air is substantially improved. Look at how much faster I am moving here, so you get to be a little bit more evasive. The stamina distance has also been changed from being minus 9% to plus 25%, so those dashes are going to go much farther. It's basically a free stamina mastery. Look at that movement. The weapon damage bonus has been reduced, though, from 4 down to 3, and the Tier 1 and Tier 2 have both been changed. Now, the Tier 1 upgrade no longer gives you cooldown reduction, instead, front-loading some more weapon damage, giving you plus 3 weapon damage immediately and plus 30% slow for 1.5 seconds. The Tier 2 no longer provides those same benefits, and the benefits on the Tier 1 are actually worse than the previous Tier 2. The previous Tier 2 gave plus 5 weapon damage and plus 40% slow, but as you can see, both of those were reduced. Now, on the Tier 2, you get minus 13 seconds of cooldown, which might sound worse than the previous Tier 1 until you remember they substantially reduced the cooldown of the base ability. So now I've got a 9-second cooldown on Rain of Arrows, and of course, it has a 4-second duration, but yeah, it's only 5 seconds until I get to fly up into the sky again. So this will actually make Grey Talon's gun playstyle feel much more interactive, much more snappy. The movement feels really good, and the fact that you get to cast this ability substantially more often, while also having less duration, means that Well, if you want to use it just for a quick burst of mobility in some direction, you can do that. If you find yourself canceling your rain of arrows early anyways, then the duration doesn't really matter, and then you just get it back faster so you get to use it again. I think this is overall a very powerful change for gun-grade Talon here, even though he is definitely going to lose out on a little bit of damage this update. That is substantially lower than it was before. Haze got one change, and it might look really small, but it's not. She now has plus 0.02 extra weapon damage per stack on the tier 3. I know it sounds small, but you have to remember, she has a very fast fire rate. She builds up 80 of these stacks, so that's going to result in a lot more weapon damage. You know, a lot of people must have skill issue on Infernus, because they increased his bullet size from 3 to 4, so I guess these are easier to hit now? Okay, that's interesting. Also, Concussive Combustion's tier 3 has been increased from plus 0.75 to plus 0.9 seconds of stun duration. That's a 2.15 second stun duration, and with superior duration, that is a 2.75 second stun. You're joking. Can I build up Afterburn with heavy melee on this? Well, I can get 2 good whacks in. Yo, the Infernus Abrams synergy is about to go crazy. Kelvin is getting some nerfs again. Feels like he has been nerfed for as long as I've been playing Deadlock. But, yeah, the Frost Grenade's damage spirit scaling has been reduced again from 0.7 to 0.6. And also, Arctic Beam's DPS has been reduced from 0.5 to 0.38 on its spirit scaling. That's pretty big. But one last notable change is that if Kelvin is interrupted during the ice path by something like Knockdown, then it will not create an ice path beneath his feet. Instead, he will fall out of the sky and get stunned. So that's a very good change for counterplaying Kelvin while he's using this powerful movement ability. The Lash is getting gun nerfs? Whoa, that's freaky. And if you're not a high rank player, you might be totally out of the loop on what this is, so let me fill you in. Gun Lash has been something that's actually been surprisingly good at the higher elos, with a build such as this, where you get Headhunter, Recharging Rush, Rapid Recharge, Spellslinger, Siphon Bullets, the whole 9 yards. His gun was doing monstrous damage while also being equipped on a character with a lot of mobility and a lot of health. So they are actually nipping that in the bud because, well, it was kind of born from an unintended interaction. You see, Grapple gives you plus 7 weapon damage for 10 seconds after using it, but it actually stacked. So if you used Grapple multiple times in quick succession, you would end up getting more and more weapon damage, turning him into a gun carry hero. That has been removed. It no longer stacks, but rather refreshes when you recast Grapple, which is eminently reasonable. And I think the reason this flew under the radar for so long is because people just assumed that's how it worked anyways. So that is a very fair change. Also, his bullet damage per boon has been slightly reduced from 0.341 to 0.31. However, this isn't without some buffs for Lash, so the ground strike damage per meter scaling has been increased from 0.0372, that's a number right there, to 0.04. A little bit more damage on the ground strike, and also, the Grapple Tier 3 now grants you plus 1 charge, giving you a reason to potentially want to upgrade to this now, and it still retains the increased air control, by the way, so you can really just go zooming through the skies with this, which looks really fun. McGinnis is getting more small incremental buffs. The bullet damage per boon is increased from 0.17 to 0.18, and the medicinal spectre radius has been increased by half a meter again. I feel like they just keep increasing this. We're gonna get a globe-sized medicinal spectre in a couple of patches, I promise. Mina just got clowned on with a change that has never been seen before in Deadlock. Mina now has minus 8% base debuff resist. So, just like her fiancé Pocket, she's got a minus in something now, and, oof. If she gets stunned, or slowed, or anything like that, that's going to hurt her more than it does most other characters. I like it. I like it a lot. Also, they have nerfed other parts of her kit, too. Love Bites Tier 3 has been increased from minus 4 seconds. Wait, that's a buff. Okay, Love Bites Tier 3 has been increased from minus 4 seconds cooldown to minus 5 seconds cooldown. You get to build that up more frequently. Oh, okay, thanks. Love Bites no longer applies the flat on-hit damage to abilities. It was always doing 20% of its value on Nox Nostra. So, yeah, a little bit less damage on Nox Nostra as a result of that. And also, Nox Nostra's Tier 3 has been cut in half, from 1% current HP to 0.5% current HP. So that, yeah, really means that Nox Nostra is weaker now. Shoot, that didn't even kill the Bebop. I know it's a stock Nox Nostra with no Love Bites procs or anything, but ouch, that was max level. That barely did anything. So, yeah, her ultimate is a lot worse now, and, well, hit Mina with as many stuns as you can. Take advantage of that minus 8% debuff resist. Ooh, that sounds fun to me. Now, I was just playing Mirage earlier today, so let's see what they mean when they say they updated Jinsmark's visuals. Alright, not seeing anything so far. Oh, wait. Oh, it's almost like claw marks now, to indicate the amount of stacks you have on an enemy. So you got a little 1 right there, then a little 2. It's actually a little bit harder to read than the previous visuals. They just had a massive number there. But yeah, you've got the 4 claw marks, and then boom, and he explodes. It's interesting. I will say, yeah, it is harder to read than the previous one, but maybe it'll just take some getting used to. So, if you get hit with a melee attack in Burrow, it no longer knocks you up. That heavy melee still pushes you back, but it doesn't knock you up out of the ground or anything weird like that. I guess that's just kind of a bug fix. And then also Sandblast Tier 3 has half a second improved duration. So that's a 4-second disarm duration on that thing. Paige is getting some buffs here. First of all, the Tier 2 Bookworm getting 4 seconds of extra cooldown reduction. Very nice. Also, Rallying Charge Tier 3 has greatly improved damage from 135 up to 160. And as a general mechanic, Rallying Charge will go on half cooldown if it does not hit anybody when it expires. So if I just send this off into Narnia, it has a 160-second cooldown, and then give it some time, wait for it to expire, and then bam, there it goes. Half cooldown, so you get it back significantly faster. This is great if you try and slingshot it across the map and it just misses everybody. Or you're in a team fight, and your team is moving around real frantic, and somehow you end up missing it too. So, yeah, that's a very nice change. I do like that. I think it's going to make Paige feel a lot better to play. Paradox is getting some buffs, mostly to the time wall. The Tier 1 duration has been increased by a full second. Wow, 9-second duration on the time wall. And the Tier 3 has also been increased from +1 charge to 2. 3 charges now, and the time between charges has been reduced from 4 seconds to 2 seconds. On top of that, Carbine Tier 3 has been increased from 50% to 55% max damage scaling, and Paradoxical Swap does 25 extra damage now, up to 150. Pocket is getting some small nerfs, and one of them is actually to Glock it, funnily enough. I haven't even seen that recently. So the duration of the Tier 2 Glock it buff has been reduced from 8 to 6 seconds, and also Affliction got 10 seconds added to the cooldown, which is eminently reasonable, as this is one of the strongest ults in the game. Rem is getting some big changes here, which makes sense as he's another character with an utterly abysmal win rate. So, let's see what they've done. First of all, the charge time on Pillow Toss has been reduced by 1 second, get to throw those more frequently, and also the Tier 3 has 10 extra damage. Alright, not a terrible start, but here's where things get interesting. Tagalong, just getting a whole suite of changes. So, the Burst Heal will now trigger on secondary allies that you jump to, meaning that he'll do significantly more healing to everybody in the chain, as well as, of course, himself. That is a very big, powerful buff. Also, the lingering heal duration has been reduced from 3 seconds to 2 seconds, but the raw healing output is still the same. So you get the same healing, just faster. Which is great, because if Rem wants to rapidly bounce between targets, he doesn't want to have to wait for that heal to go off. He just wants to heal and then move on. So that is really good too. Tagalong's Tier 2 barrier and item duration / range effectiveness has been buffed from 25% to 35%, and the Tagalong Tier 3 now also increases missing health heal from 0.03 to 0.05 spirit scaling, and regen per second spirit scaling from 0.66 to 1.0. The amount of healing you're going to get from this character is simply absurd this patch. Furthermore, Tagalong can properly be cast through Veils now, thank goodness for that. They reduce the lockout period after ejecting from Tagalong from 1 second to 0.3 seconds, and the Tagalong time to fly to your ally is now 50% faster. We can just latch onto that guy real quick, look at that. The heal duration is also now displayed on the HUD as well as the health bar icon. So if we take a look at this, you see that little heal there, that is very, very nice. Furthermore, they fixed specific abilities and items killing Rem while he's napping. Didn't even know that was a thing, but okay, that's pretty good too. And Tagalong now also allows friendly auras to affect Rem, which shouldn't mean much for most things apart from maybe like Mystic Conduit and Street Brawl. Because like, you know, there are some auras like Heroic Aura, but they don't really matter for Rem when he's tagging along because he's already immortal and he can't shoot his gun. So yeah, just a small change there. And Tagalong Eject is no longer affected by debuff resistance and now launches upwards slightly more to prevent hitting and thudding against the ground. So that's pretty cool. We actually get some pretty good height from that, as you can see. The Eject also no longer briefly restricts movement abilities and inputs, so you can just get right back to doing what you were doing as soon as you eject. Whew, that's a big list. And then finally, Nap Time now provides 30% damage reduction in the base ability, and the Tier 3 still adds 50%, bringing the total up to 80% damage reduction while you're channeling that. Hello, Warden. Rem is Warden now, I guess, for the purposes of channeling Nap Time. That is funny. So yeah, Rem is going to be such a potent healer this update. Kelvin is going to have a run for his money, because this Nap Time is intense. 7 is getting a small buff and nerf here. So, first of all, his gun damage is going down. The bullet damage growth per boon has been reduced from 0.374 to 0.337. But since most of your damage comes from Spirit anyways, that's fair enough. But he did get a very nice buff against gun builds. The crit reduction that he has just shot up from 35% to 55%. Less headshot damage taken compared to other characters. So those gun characters like Haze and Wraith are going to farm him just a little bit less. Shiv is getting some nerfs in the form of mostly just power shifts into upgrades in his kit. So the Slice and Dice Tier 2 has just been reduced from 8% to 6%. That's just a flat nerf. Now it's just double what the ability has by default. Bloodletting Deferred Damage Cleared has also been reduced from 40 to 35%, but you get that back on the Tier 3. So with the Tier 3, it's the same as it was before. Killing Blow's cooldown has also been increased from 105 to 125 seconds. Ouch. And the full Rage damage bonus has been reduced from 14 to 12%. Oof. But you get both of these things back on the Tier 2 upgrade. So the Tier 2 increases from 8% full rage damage bonus to 10%, and the Tier 2 also reduces the cooldown by 30 seconds, which is actually an improvement over what he had previously. Now you can see it is a 95-second cooldown. So there is one silver lining there, I guess, but ultimately, hey, Shiv's getting nerfed. Silver is getting some changes here. First of all, the bullet cycle time has been slightly improved, meaning that she'll shoot slightly faster, but the overall DPS has been adjusted so that it is effectively the same. You just get those shots out more quickly. Entangling Bola also no longer prevents players from jumping and mantling. Thank goodness. That was, in my opinion, a step too far towards the obnoxious category of just not being able to move. They also changed around the upgrades. The Tier 2 of Entangling Bola, if I can get out of Lichen Curse here for a second, oh my goodness. So the Tier 2 now provides you minus 5 seconds of cooldown. Previously, it gave you plus 0.75 seconds of duration. That duration has been moved to the Tier 3, so they just did a 1-to-1 swap there, and they actually didn't even nerf any of the values. The Lichen Curse's fire rate, though, just got flat nerfed. The fire rate has been reduced from 80 to 65%. The spirit scaling has been improved from 0.25 to 0.45, but who buys spirit items on silver anyways? Nobody. So that is going to end up being a flat nerf for most silver builds. I'm surprised they didn't do much to Venator this patch because he's had a horrible win rate for a while now, and at some points it's been the lowest in the game. They did buff him, but just not that much. So his health has been increased from 790 plus 43 per boon to 830 plus 48 per boon. If I max level now, 2,400 health. That's pretty respectable. And also, the Hex-lined Snap Trap, specifically the Tier 3, has been buffed from 25% up to 30% damage, and also you get +1 charge now. But that's it. That's all Venator got. So, yeah, probably not going to see his win rate budge too much. Wallbreaker Victor is dead. Not only did they do that change to shrines we talked about probably an hour ago at this point, but they also nerfed Victor directly. The bullet damage has been reduced from 13 plus 0.3135 per boon to 12 plus 0.26 per boon. And also, Aura of Suffering does 50% less damage to objectives. It's getting the same treatment as so many other abilities before it. However, there is a silver lining here. Jumpstart's spirit scaling on the Tier 3 has been increased from 0.6 to 0.9. You're going to get a lot more healing out of that. Viscous just got a fascinating change. Puddle Punch Tier 1 now increases damage by +20, and it still provides you +1 charge. The +30 damage has been removed from the Tier 2, but in its place, it now has +40% lifesteal. And also a quarter versus non-heroes. So if I half health myself and then just whack Bebop here, I should get some healing if I actually upgrade to it properly, of course. So that is a pretty interesting change. The Puddle Punch is actually doing even less damage now than it did before, but it's going to give Viscous a lot of sustain in fights, and it's already a powerful disruptor tool. So, yeah, this is going to be real interesting. I really want to try a punch build with this. Oh, Vyper's getting buffed. I played against Vyper twice today. It was not fun. And it's going to be even less fun, because Screw Jab Dagger upgrades might mean something now. The Tier 2 bullet resist per stack has gone from 5% to 6%. And the Tier 3 increases the max stacks by 2. So if you spam this into someone, you are going to have a lot of bullet resist shred on them. So that's pretty terrifying. I'm not looking forward to that. Unsurprisingly, Warden is getting some nerfs, starting with a bullet damage per boon reduction from 0.38 to 0.34. Very reasonable. Also, Willpower Tier 3 debuff resistance now retroactively applies to existing debuffs when cast. That's actually a little bit of a buff, which is fair enough because they're also nerfing Binding Word by basically just taking the increased cast range away from the Tier 2. So now it just provides duration instead of also applying cast range, so you'll have to be closer to the enemies if you want to lock them up. My voice is giving out because this has been such a long recording session, so let's wrap things up here with Yamato. Power Slash getting 2 changes here. The post-cast time has been reduced from 0.4 seconds to 0.2 seconds. So, you can get back to doing other actions faster. On top of that, they buffed the spirit scaling. Wow. From 1.86 to 2.1. That's a lot of extra damage. Flying Slash also getting some changes. The range is increased by 5 meters by default, but the Tier 2 no longer grants 20 meters of extra cast range, leveling that out and meaning that you won't be able to snipe enemies as far away. But notably, it still gives you plus 40 spirit power for 6 seconds, which is an absurd upgrade, especially with the buff to Power Slash. And then, the Flying Slash Tier 3 also grants you plus 15 meters of cast range. So if you want to max this out all the way, you can snipe people once again, and you get 2 extra charges instead of just 1. So 3 charges in the base kit here. You can just do that, hit the Power Slash, and then you can go in again, and you can just keep trailing an enemy relentlessly. They also fixed a bug where Crimson Slash wasn't able to hit anything if the player aimed too high or low. That is more consistent now, and look at that. I'm actually able to hit this guy while looking all the way up here. So that's a really nice change. And Shadow Transformation Tier 1 gives you plus 2 extra weapon damage now. So Yay! Gun Yamato! It's probably not back. But anyways, that's going to do it for this behemoth of a video. Man, these patch notes are long, but this is going to give us the meta shakeup that we really needed. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to giving this a good test, and if you want to see me do that live on stream, then make sure you're subscribed to the channel and you follow so you don't miss out. I stream every single weekday. So, yeah, there's plenty of time to come in, ask me questions, watch some fun gameplay. I would really appreciate it if you would subscribe. But with all that being said, thank you guys for watching. I will see you all next time. Peace out.